Sharon Danley here with 2-Minute Tips, and this week it's about how I cut my hair and 2 different ways I did bangs. Look at this. With my shoulder injury last winter, my hair just grew completely out of shape. So finally I was able to cut the front end of it after about 5 months. So I started with parting my hair where I usually wear my bangs across my crown and also on the sides. And notice I went towards the front end of the round of the ear because I don't want to take too much away with my thin fine hair when I'm going to be doing face framing layers. Next, I grab a hold of the bang area and spritz the hair so it's nice and wet in order to cut it well. I measure where I want it. Usually I cut it somewhere between my lips and my chin. Sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower. Comb the hair down and I take good barber shears and I cut the hair straight across to where I need it. And with my thin fine hair, that just gets done fast and easy. Next, I'm going to check to make sure that it's not too straight looking by point cutting into the shafts. Okay, so now I'm just going to comb it back and make sure it's the length that I want it when it falls off to the side, because that's the way I wear it mostly. Now that that's okay, I'm going to comb the hair straight up and back. In other words, I'm going to over direct it and cut the hair while it's directed back so I can take off some of the length at the back end so it gives me a nice soft layering, especially with thin fine hair like mine is. So just point cut it and then take any extra long pieces off and just generally do what feels good. So then I take the hair and comb it back, see how it falls, and it seems to be doing just what I need it to do. So now it's time to give it a little bit of lift, and I'm going to use my blow dryer to just lift it off my scalp and out a bit and give it the sense of what it would look like when it's been curled. I don't use heat on my hair too often, but in a case like this, it's not going to hurt. Now see how that gives it such a nice, lovely lift? And now I'm going to back comb it so I get a really good feeling of how it's going to look when I actually style it. And I always back comb the root so it gives it the lift that I need. Now I just comb it back with my fingers usually and just kind of place it where I would normally wear it and get a sense if that's the right length for my bangs, and it seems to be working just fine. Well, that's about all I can do for the front, but you can see how long it is. My shoulder just isn't well enough yet to go to do any more, but it's because you can see how thin and fine it is, and that's why it needs to be cut a little bit shorter. And that's why when I layer it in the front, I only take a little bit off and never go behind the ear, because it just doesn't work very well. So I'm showing where I can cut it, you know, a little bit shorter, a lot shorter, keep it longer, or whatever. I don't know what I'm going to do at this point, but I do make up my mind later. Well, it's a few months later, and although my hair looks shorter, my sister did come and cut off the bottom for me, but it's time to cut it again. And now my shoulder is much better. I can bring it right behind me. So I'm tying the hair back into a ponytail at the nape of the neck. Then I'm going to bring the hair around to the side and stretch it so that it's not pulled in any one direction. And I'm going to cut it off again with the barber shears. I think I'm only going to take off about a ½ an inch or an inch here. And again, having thin fine hair, you get through the cut real fast. So when that's finished, then I just take out the ponytail and bring my hair around to the sides and make sure that I spritz everything, because I think I let it dry too much before I decided to cut it. And clip that hair back, comb it to the sides on each side and even it up. Get a sense, get a feel for it. Check the back to make sure that it's good the way I cut it and I'm happy with everything. Then what I'm going to do is split the hair in the center and bring the hair completely around to each side. Then I'm going to spritz it a little more, comb it, make sure I've got it just the way I need it to be, and then I'm going to cut off the sides to match up evenly with the back. Next, I do a little bit of measuring and get a feel. I cut by feel. I know that that's not what they teach in hairdressing school, but it works for me. And so I spritz down the hair again just to make sure it's damp enough to cut well, and feel each side. And now it's time to take some off the opposite side. And you can see where it needs to come off. And just straight across. Pretty simple and easy. Then I just feel, cut by feel method. That's what I do for me. So I take a little bit more off the one side. You got to be a little bit careful because you don't want to have to keep going higher and higher and higher. But generally speaking, you can get a feel, you can get a sense of it, and you measure from the front, and then the hair by the ears, and then the hair behind the ears. Usually it turns out pretty good. Well, time to cut those bangs again. It's amazing how fast they grow sometimes, huh? All right, so I just gather what I usually, part my hair where I usually part it, I should say, to bring the hair forward that I'm going to incorporate into the bangs, and make sure that the hair is damp, and pull the rest of my hair back into a ponytail to get it out of my way. And then comb it and see where do I want to cut. So then I spritz the hair, make sure it's nice and damp so that it cuts up much better. And I've decided where I'm going to cut it. And then I just take, this time, thinning shears. And I'm using that to cut the hair with because thinning shears give a more uneven cut line. And that's what I'm looking for, just something really easy. So I comb it back to see if that's pretty much the length I want. When it's combed back, and it looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to undercut a thin sort of hairline frame of hair, so that when the wind blows, I have a little bit of bang underneath my bangs. Does that make sense? So I'm going to clip that out of the way, and then I'm going to take maybe just a little bit more hair, and especially at the temples, ladies, because this is where we lose our hair, or it tends to go back. So bringing some hair down to help fill that in for you, I find that it works really, really well to kind of camouflage that sort of, let's find another word for balding, more conspicuous spot. So then just clip the hair out of the way, and all I do is just take that bang and I cut it where I think I'd like to have it. And I'm going to point cut again because I don't want a severe line, especially with this. Get a sense of what it's like and take away any of those long pieces. Then I measure it and see, is that if that's what I want, then that's perfect. And then I just bring it down, play around with it, or I decide that maybe I'm going to take just a little bit more off, which I do. And this time using the thinning shears. Having a pair of thinning shears and good barber shears, you only have to buy them once in your life, and they last and they work well and they cut your hair well. And then if there's any stragglers, then I just go in with the barber shears. There, that's the better length for me. Okay, so now I'm going to cut some face framing layers, and I'm going to take some hair just from the front part of my hair, from the top of the ear forward. That's the only hair I'm going to cut because my hair is thin and fine. And what I do is just comb it out straight up and then just cut those long babies off, just to give it a wee bit of face framing. Okay, now I just run my fingers through the hair, get an overall general sense or feel of it and how it's going to be, run the comb through. Everything seems to be fine. It's shorter, it's a better length for me and for my thin hair. Now it's time to put my hair in rollers, just spritzed with a wee bit of water overnight, soft, easy to sleep on. And in the morning, this is what I end up with. Simple, easy, and oh so chic. We'll see you next time.